Every year, millions of American homeowners legally overpay their property taxes, often without ever realizing it's even happening. Not because they have to, because nobody ever tells them the paperwork exists. Your county will never call to say you might qualify for something. The system depends entirely on you asking first, every single year, for as long as you own the home. Today, I'm going to show you 8 ways that could legally lower, or in some cases completely eliminate, your property tax bill starting right now. Most people watching qualify for at least one of them, and some of you qualify for 3 or 4 at once, without realizing it. Stick with me, because we're saving the one that's worth more than all the others combined for the very end. Picture 2 identical houses sitting side by side, same street, same size, same value, say $300,000 each. One owner filed a single page of paperwork years ago, called a homestead exemption. The other one never knew it existed. Depending on the county, that single page can shave anywhere from a few hundred to a few $1,000s off the taxable value every single year. 20 years later, they've paid tens of thousands of dollars differently for the exact same house on the exact same street. That one page reduces the taxable value of whatever home you actually live in, and it's the foundation everything else on this list builds on. On top of it, most states let anyone 65 or older file for a second, separate exemption, stacked directly on top, not instead of it. Cities like New York and Chicago even add a third layer on top of that. Most homeowners never ask, so nobody ever offers it to them. And we haven't even reached the one that can freeze your bill forever. If you're over 65, stay with me, because this next one could be worth more in raw dollars than everything else on this list combined for some retirees. A senior assessment freeze locks in your home's assessed value, or in some states, your entire tax bill at the number it was the day you qualified. Permanently, not just for a few years, while you wait for the market to correct itself. In Texas, that freeze applies to the school tax portion specifically, so even if your home's value doubles over the next 20 years, that part of your bill simply stops moving. Say you qualify at 65 with a home worth $250,000. If that same home is worth $500,000 by the time you're 85, the frozen portion of your bill is still calculated off the original number, not the new one, for as long as you own the home. If your state has this and you haven't filed, you're leaving the single biggest number on today's entire list completely unclaimed year after year. The next one has a name so technical, almost nobody recognizes it, but for the right household, it means an actual refund check in the mail. It's called a circuit breaker credit, and here's the surprise. It isn't a reduction on your bill at all. It's a refund, based purely on your income, not your age. Nearly 30 states run some version of this program in one form or another. If your property tax bill eats up more than a set percentage of what you actually earn, the state sends the overage back, sometimes as a direct check, sometimes as a credit against next year's bill. Michigan opens this to any homeowner under a $63,000 income. Massachusetts residents claim it right on their state tax return, alongside their regular filing, rather than through a separate application entirely. 2 down, 6 more to go, and we still haven't reached the ones with the highest dollar values on this entire list. Here's one for anyone who simply can't keep up with the bill at all, regardless of exemptions. A property tax deferral lets you stop paying altogether, right now, and settle the balance later, when the home sells or passes to your family. It's built for homeowners on a fixed income who need the cash flow more than they need to preserve every dollar of equity today. The risk? It becomes a lien with interest, anywhere from 0% in Vermont to around 7% annually in California's program for qualifying seniors under a set income limit. Real relief, real cost, your call, and worth a conversation with your family before you file, since it directly affects what's left of the home's equity later. So far, every one of these has depended on your age or your income. The next 3 don't care how old you are. They care about who's actually living in the house, and one of them is worth more than most people realize. A qualifying disability separate from any senior program gets its own exemption in most states, and it stacks with everything we've already covered. The qualifying rules vary widely. Some states tie it to Social Security disability status, others to a state-specific medical determination. So this is exactly the kind of program that's easy to assume you don't qualify for without ever actually checking with your county directly. Here's the one most people underestimate completely. In 22 states, a veteran with a 100% permanent VA disability rating pays 0 property tax, not reduced. 0. Every other state still scales a real exemption to whatever percentage rating you carry, so even a 50% rating is often worth a genuine reduction, not nothing. None of it applies automatically. You file with your county assessor, not the VA, even if the VA confirmed your rating years ago. And here's something almost nobody tells surviving spouses. The exemption doesn't have to end when they do. In most states, an unremarried surviving spouse keeps it. In Texas, it lasts for life and can even move with you to a new home if you decide to relocate. In Florida, it holds until remarriage or sale. Real households lose real money every year simply because nobody ever said that one sentence to them. None of what we just covered matters if the number underneath it is wrong. That's what's coming last. And it's the one that decides what every other program up here is actually worth. Here's a number that should surprise you. About 78% of homeowners have never once challenged their property's assessed value. Of the people who actually do, 40 to 60% win a reduction, typically 8 to 20% off. That's not a long shot. That's close to a coin flip in your favor for a right every homeowner already has. No lawyer required in most jurisdictions to simply get the process started. On a $350,000 home taxed at a typical 1.5% rate, even a modest 10% reduction saves roughly $525 a year. On a $500,000 home, that same 10% reduction is closer to $750 annually, and it compounds every single year you own the home. Here's why it's last instead of first, not just an afterthought tacked on at the end. Every exemption, freeze, and credit we just covered is a percentage or dollar amount off your assessed value. If that number was inflated to begin with, every program above, it only saves you a percentage of a number that was wrong from the start. Fix that number first, and everything else you just claimed is suddenly worth more. 2 mistakes cost people the most. Missing the deadline, which usually means waiting a full extra year even if you clearly qualified the whole time. And assuming you don't qualify without ever calling to check, especially with surviving spouse and disability programs specifically, where people often assume a status change quietly ended a benefit that in most states never actually expired. Picture a widow who simply stopped checking the mail for her assessment notice after her husband passed, assuming the exemption had automatically ended along with everything else that changed that year. In many states, it hadn't. Nobody at the county called to correct that assumption because nobody there is required to. One honest note, if you're watching this mid-year, most exemption deadlines have already closed for this tax year in most states, some as early as February. Appeal windows are different. They follow when your assessment notice actually arrives, which varies by county, so yours might still be open, depending on your local schedule. Here's the reality. None of these programs are hidden. They're public. They're legal. They've existed for years, in most cases for decades. The only difference between the homeowner paying full price and the homeowner paying thousands less is that one of them knew which form to ask for and actually asked. Tomorrow morning, make just one phone call. Ask your county assessor exactly what exemptions apply to your property by name one at a time if you have to, because the worst answer you can get is discovering 5 years from now that you qualified the whole time and simply never asked. If someone in your life owns their home and is over 65, a veteran, or recently widowed, send them this video today. It costs them absolutely nothing to check, and it could be worth thousands if they do.